Welcome to another edition of When School's Not Working. I'm Matt Barnes, and again, I run an organization called The Education Game. We work with parents to do some of the things that we're going to learn about Tiersa's doing right today. We got a great guest, but before we get to that, let's go ahead and introduce our co-host today, Kath.
Yes, hi, I'm Catherine Fraise. I'm the founder of Workspace Education and our research and development company, 100 Roads. And we're just about to launch our new sort of online virtual campus, Workspace Sky Teens. And I'm excited to talk today with Tiersa and find out her homeschooling journey and all the magic that's been going on in her world in the last couple of years. So we'd like to, I think Matt, you're going to introduce her a little bit and then we'll get started.
Yeah, briefly. Just had a chance to get to know her briefly, but Tiersa McQueen has 3 kids, right? A 14-year-old, 13-year-old, and a 9-year-old.
4. I have twins.
Oh, twins. Twin
Yeah.
9-year-old. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. I can't just count one of them, right? They both count. So she's got a full house. They all learn at home. They are unschoolers, and we'll talk more about that today. But one of the things that she's really, really committed about, and one of the things she's really talking a lot about, is the role of Black unschoolers or Black homeschoolers and how that is growing dramatically. I'm one of many examples of that. And so, Tiersa, welcome to When School's Not Working, and give us like the 2-minute version of how you got to this point.
Hi, thanks for having me. So we started homeschooling around 2012, I think. And it was just really just an evolution from, we don't think school is working. So what should we do? Yeah, what should we do? So actually it was my son, my oldest son, who was he was going into the 3rd grade at the time. And he was just like, I don't like school, school's not for me. And kids say that all the time. It's just, it's a common thing, and parents ignore them all the time. Well, I didn't ignore him. And so I said, okay, you don't like it. Let's think of something else we can do. Maybe we could homeschool. And at the time, my husband had just started working nights and I was working during the day. So I figured this would be a way that we could do it. So, we said, okay, we'll start. And we just started with the older 2 kids, and the twins went to kindergarten. But then after a year of them being in the kindergarten, we loved homeschooling so much that I just said, I can't even send the twins to kindergarten. Like, we have to get them all at home. So we worked towards that. And then we moved from Texas to Florida. And when we moved to Florida, all the kids began unschooling once we moved to Florida. We had started homeschooling. So it was basically your school at home, the curriculum at the kitchen table, the whole 9 yards. But we were still having the tears over math. We were having arguments, and it felt like if we did this for freedom, if we did this to make ourselves and our lives easier, it doesn't feel like that. So how can we make this a better experience for all of us? And so we just started, it was just like an ongoing evolution that turned into unschooling. Before I even knew what unschooling was, I didn't know. I said, well, I just told the kids, what if I didn't buy curriculum this year? What if we just did the things we wanted to do? Would that be okay? And they said, yeah, let's give it a try. So I said, well, I better look this up and see if people actually do this. And so then that's when I found John Holt, and, that's when I found Peter Gray, and I found Akilah Richards. And I said, oh, okay, this is a thing. And, there's a community around it. So I joined it, and that's all she wrote. I've been a unschooling advocate ever since. And it's wonderful. It's awesome.
Awesome. Kathy, you had a question?
Can you describe what a day of unschooling looks like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So like I said, I still work. I work 8 to 5. I'm a location planner at an outlet department store in Florida. And my husband he actually works from home now. So he doesn't have to work at night anymore. We've transitioned to he's at home. So it's a lot better. But a day in the life looks like I get up in the morning and then I walk around to see who's up. Because when I get up, we don't have bedtimes, we don't have anything like that. So sometimes the kids beat me awake and sometimes they put me to sleep. So I say, who's up? And then I go walk around and look to see what everyone's doing. I touch base with all the kids that are up. And then I go to work. I'm lucky enough to have made my life in a way that I only work a mile away from where I live. So I come home every day for lunch. And usually when I come home for lunch, everyone's up. So that's when I just touch base with them and I talk to them. We start having conversations about whatever it is that they're doing. And it could be anything. Like today, like my daughter was telling me about things that are happening in the world of Sims and all the updates that they're making in Sims. My son, my oldest son, he studies Japanese and he has out school classes. So he talks to me about what's going on with what he's doing in his classes. And then the twins will just tell me the things that they've learned. Like, Mom, do you know that banana is a berry? Like, just like things like that. It's just like an everyday thing. And then I will talk over, and I usually don't want to go back to work. I'm like, oh my gosh, like the conversation will be so rich and everyone will be talking and there's so much life. So then I go back to work and then I come home at 5 o'clock. And tonight we had, we've had like movie marathons. So we've been doing every week, we've been doing like a movie marathon, or every day we have like a movie that we watch. So this weekend we did Twilight, because we never saw Twilight before and they just put it on Netflix. So we did Twilight and we deconstructed the story, talked about how it was for the times and what significance it was. And then so we decided to move on. So when I came home for today, they decided we're going to do Transformers. So now I'm watching all the Transformers movies and we're talking about, the conversation was about why didn't we see the Transformers more? And I was like, well, maybe they didn't have the budget to see the Transformers more. And so then we started talking about that and how CGI has advanced and all of those things. So that's basically a day in my life. It's mostly just conversations, very deep conversations. And then we also have like a huge whiteboard, a 6-foot tall whiteboard that the kids affectionately call Professor Blanco. And then we will go to Professor Blanco and we will write, we'll make little notes that we want to talk about, or we'll make Venn diagrams, or we'll make, just ways of pulling it all together, visually.
Yeah.
And that's just a day in the life. It's just sometimes we do that, sometimes we don't do anything. I mean, it is what it is.
One thing that I talk about a lot is that, there is a belief that more is always better. And so, that's kind of the model of school, like more. But what I'm hearing is a less but better. Mm-hmm. So the conversation about deconstructing a movie, there's a ton of learning. I have no doubt that there's a ton of learning in that. And it was also fun and the kids were highly engaged. So that's actually a common misperception about unschooling. They think that the kids are just like let out in the world to run around and, just loiter at the age of 4 years old. And what I'm hearing is much more conversation, interaction on an ongoing basis, right?
Oh, yes. It's definitely about the conversation. It's definitely about, I would hesitate to call it like a Socratic method or like philosophy, or, we talk about everything that has to do with a thing. So we'll talk about the philosophy behind it. We'll talk about the budget behind it. We talk about racial aspects of it, or, was there a class consciousness or anything? Like if the kids start talking about volcanoes, if one time the twins were playing The Floor is Lava, and it led to a conversation about how Hawaii was incorporated into America. And is that right? Because we started watching YouTube videos and where are most volcanoes found? And then it was, can we go see a volcano? And I said, okay, well, this one's in Hawaii. We'd have to go to Hawaii. And then we started looking up vacation to Hawaii. And then the kids wanted to learn about Hawaii. So it's just everything is connected to everything. And that's what unschooling is. It's not, we don't break things up into subjects. It all is life. Life is the subject. Life is the curriculum. That's right. We just do what we want to do and all the things connect. So I don't really ever feel like my kids are missing out on anything, or like, oh, did they get enough of this? Or did they get enough of that? Like they got exactly what they needed. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to know, like, before, I guess when you were working before, you had a life and they were in school, and then you've got a life now, you're working still, and they're unschooling. How has it changed for you? How does your day change for you? How does it feel for you
It
now?
feels more free now than it did before, because my evenings are mine. When I worked, when I got off of work, I would have to go pick the kids up, or my husband would have to go pick the kids up. And then we came home and our lives were still dictated by what the school wanted us to do, because we still had to do homework, or we had to do projects. We have to get ready for school the next day. My kids' bedtime is dictated on, what the school says. Well, you have to go to sleep because you have to get up at this time in the morning. So my life feels much more free now than it did when my kids were in school. And I know that would sound opposite to a lot of parents, because it would feel like, I do spend a lot more time with my kids than I did before, but I spend a lot more time listening instead of like directing. So I get to just enjoy them much more than I did before, because before I would always be like, okay, did you do your homework? Okay, it's time to get your clothes out. Did you do this? Did you do that? So I felt like more like a micromanager. Right, exactly. And now I feel more like a consultant. Like, I'm there for you if you need it, but I don't have to manage your life. It's your life, it's your decision. And, I'm here to help. I'm here to provide the resources. I'm here to be an ear to listen to. I'm here to do all the things you can't do, but it's your life.
Right. So I got to say, that language of going from a taskmaster where, we got to move. I'm a recovering tiger mom, by the way. Right. So I've come full circle, but that whole idea that's exactly what our life was like in school. And then when we started homeschooling, was the same deal. And then I slowly moved into the unschool space. So let me start with this question with you. If you could go back to when your kids were in school and your son said, I don't like school, could you have imagined at that moment that you would move to unschooling, or was that something that was a bridge too far for you to think about?
Oh, that was definitely a bridge too far for me to think about. I would never have thought. I told you, I didn't even know what unschooling was. I did not know that it existed. I knew homeschooling. But I knew all the stereotypes of homeschooling, and so, but I still thought, well, if I do it, it's not going to be like that. So I took a chance, but I did not even imagine. I could not imagine that I would have allowed myself to give the children as much freedom as they have now. I wouldn't even imagine that.
No, Tiersa, real quick, Kath, I actually think that that folks like us, we do ourselves a disservice by telling parents about some of what we're doing with unschooling, because it's just such a far jump. But instead, talking about like what I think most families do, which is, okay, we're going to start by just being at home, and maybe we'll do school at home, but then we're going to reduce the workload, we're going to reduce the structure, and we're going to start to move back, almost backing into a better environment, which is what I did, what you did, sounds like.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. I always tell people that you don't have to go full on unschooling if you're not comfortable with that.
Yeah.
You can taking the kids out of school is giving them a tremendous amount of freedom, because you're giving them the freedom to go to the bathroom when they want. You're giving them the freedom to get a snack when they're hungry. You've already given them so much more freedom than they already have in school, even if you're doing it with set curriculum. Even if because you can still dictate, well, we can do this on weekends, or we can do night school. You still have more control. We can go on vacation in October, which we do as a family. We're not bound to the school calendar. So you're still getting a tremendous amount of freedom, and you get to learn with your kids all the things you didn't know or you forgot. You get to learn with them, and also you get to curate their curriculum to your culture. There's a lot of talk about critical race theory in schools right now, and how people don't want it to be in schools. And everything I hear about, I'm like, that's what I talk about every day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this, what is the problem? I talk to my kids about these things every single day. So yeah, I think that even if you're not comfortable letting your kids be self-directed, there's tremendous benefits just from homeschooling, just in general. There's plenty of ways to do it. You can do it virtually, you could buy the box of curriculum, there's plenty of ways.
Yeah, and I think, the freedom actually of them being able to think all the time, as opposed to having, a crazy amount of busy work. Because the whole idea is, we want them to be independent, self-determined, and that happens through them making decisions and thinking all the time. And I think
Absolutely.
In unschooling, you have that freedom. They are constantly thinking. Their mind is, thinking in all different ways. Their attention hasn't been grabbed by, a particular curriculum that maybe the school is imposing, and really creating a coercive environment. That they have to learn that material.
You're right on the money. And the other thing that I want to mention with regards to that is that I think that there's this misconception when your kid goes to school and then they come home and they play video games or watch television, it's that they're decompressing from the school day. As much as in the way when I come home and I do those things because I'm decompressing from my corporate work life. But when you unschool your kids or your kids are self-directed, they're using the television and the video games as another resource. It's like a springboard to more information. So they don't use it as in the same way. Those are the tools that they're using for their education. Right. So I think that people need to, as they relax, they need to see that as well, that these things, they're not just, if my kids unschooled, they'd be on the computer all day. That's okay. Like they'd be, they learned a lot of things by doing that. Like my children played this game called Cuphead. And in Cuphead, they ended up finding out what this animation came from. It was from the 1920s. And they learned all about the sin industries, which were cigarettes and alcohol, and, and because all these things are incorporated in the game. And they learned about the animation style, and they learned about all the different animation studio houses that were during the time, like Disney and so that was a video game that they played, but they learned a lot of things about that video game, not just the game itself, but also the history behind the style. So I think that is just important to remember that these kids are using everything for their learning, every single thing they're using. And if you just listen to them, then you'll find out that what they're using it for. Don't just assume, well, they're always on their phone. Well, maybe they're reading a book on their phone. Like, don't just assume that that they're just wasting time, because it's all learning.
So, Kath, you remember, what was her name we had on the show a few weeks ago? Computer scientist woman from Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember her name, but
not to Dr. Portnoy's.
No. Anyway, there was a black woman who, her approach was full access to all computers from start, and then every day they're talking enough where if there's something that comes up that's pornography or some sort of violence or any sort of thing like that, they're constantly talking about it, so they can use that as a moment to learn and to teach about whatever the issue that was. Now that was really gutsy. How do you approach?
That's almost exactly the same as I do. I talk to the kids about all of the things that they could come across online, and I tell them this is we have an open space, open dialogue for all of it. So, if you've come across anything that you're confused about, you don't know, you need, we just talk about it. That's all there is. So it's open to them. So we have had those conversations. Those things have come up, but I would prefer to leave it like that instead of have a situation where they feel like they can't talk about it, and and they go looking for it because it's blocked. So it makes me feel more comfortable. Hopefully it makes my kids feel more comfortable, that they have this open communication with their parents. And as far as I know, they're good with it.
Yeah.
But I'm the exact same way. And so far it hasn't been a problem.
Yeah. That's gutsy, but it sure beats, in my view, having your computer locked down to the point where the child is curious about breaking through the locks, or at some point you're going to have to remove the technological restrictions. At some point they're going to have to go into the wild And then at that late point, it may be harder for you to teach them about how to deal with it. So I again, another place that if someone told me that, 5-8 years ago, I would have called them crazy and irresponsible and negligent. Right. And now
but it comes from a place of wanting to trust children. It comes from a place of knowing that they know what's best for them and trusting them that they do know what's best for them. So that's where it comes from. I would rather err on the side of trust than locking everything down and then the kids thinking, well, she doesn't trust me. And I could come back and say, well, no, it's not that I don't trust you. It's that there's so many things out there that you won't know how to handle. And but that's kind of a cop-out because, at the end of the day, it's that you don't trust me enough to just have the conversation with me and say, these are the things you need to avoid. And trust that when I come across them, I'll avoid them. Yeah. So it was my responsibility to have these conversations with them, talk about, internet safety and all of those things. And then that's all I can do. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to shut everything down. I'm not going to block everything. I'm just going to trust that you had the conversation with mom, the boundaries and that you're going to stay within the boundaries. I mean, I have those same things in real life. Like I leave my door open so that the kids can go outside and play. The park is like a hop, skip, and a jump. So I just leave the door open so the kids can say, Mom, I'm going to the park. And then they just go out and go to the park. Or I have a bucket of dollars by the door. There's a corner store not too far away from us too. And they just grab a $5 and then say, you know what, Mom, I'm going to the store. I'm going to get some snacks. I say, okay, bye. And that is, to me, is more scary than anything that could happen online. Is my Black son walking out to the corner store? Who knows what's going to happen to him? That terrifies me. But I have a saying: if they're not afraid, why should I be? Because if they're not afraid and I'm afraid, then all I need to do is talk to them about my fears. Because I don't want to give them more fear. I don't want to say, no, you can't do that, because they weren't afraid. So I just made you afraid. So let me just talk to you about my fears. I'm afraid that if you walk through the corner store and a police officer comes up, you won't know what to do. So can we talk about what you should do if that happens?
Wow.
That's the approach that I take, because I'm not going to fill my children with fear that they don't have. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to talk to them about my experiences and try to get myself under control. Yeah. That's what I'm going to try to do.
And I wish I had talked to you 10 years ago.
I say that to people who have babies, because I didn't start until my kids were older. Right. And I have friends who are starting now and their children are like under 5. And I'm like, gosh, I wish I was doing that then, so we all feel that way. Yeah, I feel that same exact way.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about socialization. I know this question comes up all the time with homeschooling, but for a lot of parents out there, they're really scared that their children are going to be stuck at home and not socializing. And the children also are worried that maybe they won't find enough friends outside the school environment. What has your experience been like?
Well, the experience hasn't been good with regards to COVID, and the pandemic has pretty much shut all of that down. But prior to that, it wasn't really an issue because, most of the things that my children are interested in, they are able to do outside of school. So my son he loves chess. So there's chess classes at the library and they had them every week. So he would go every single week and he loves it there. And my daughter, she's in Girl Scouts. Girl Scouts is her favorite thing. So all her friends are in Girl Scouts. Even after COVID happened, Girl Scouts went virtual. She still gets to talk to them. So it really isn't as big an issue as people make it seem. I think the issue is that, like I was saying before, people are not comfortable with their children leaving their site. So in a school environment, they feel comfortable because this is a safe, contained environment where they can meet other people. But for us, it's more like just go outside. My kids make friends at the park. They just go outside and make friends at the park. So, and that doesn't have anything to do with me. I didn't hook this up, or, I don't know the teacher and I don't know the parent. So I think a lot of people they're afraid of that. They're afraid of the way I used to make friends in 1995. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what happened to us as a society, but I used to do it that way. Like, you know what I mean? I used to go to the skating rink and I made friends there, or, just like on a church trip and I would make friends. So you know, that's how I always made friends. So I didn't see why that would be any different for my children, except for the fact that other parents are more afraid now than parents were in my generation.
Right. That's the difference. There's a latent fear that's just, you know, across the board. Again, if I could go back, that would be the thing that I would, as you said, I wouldn't fill my kids with more fear, right? That's a place where I really have dropped the ball. But let around that issue though, we're about halfway through our conversation today. I want to, an area that I wanted to really delve into. It's really near to my heart, and that's the idea that you having your boy is the oldest child, or maybe you have multiple boys. I don't know.
I have, well, my 15-year-old son is my oldest, and then I have my daughter. She just turned 14 last weekend, and then my twins are 10. Mm-hmm.
Got it. So
and they're boys. They're both boys.
Oh,
so
okay,
3 boys and 1 girl. Yep.
Got it. Well, still, your oldest is a boy.
Yes.
And talk about fear. Talk about trying to make him ready for the world. Tell me how much of this move into homeschooling was driven in part because you had a Black boy at home.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it wasn't, he is the one who suggested it. My son, Phoenix, he's the one who suggested it. And I said, yeah, let's go for it. But prior to that, I had been doing research already because I had experiences with him specifically in schools and my other Black sons as well that I did not feel comfortable with. And one of them was with Phoenix when he was younger, when he was in school. I'm trying to remember. This is what happened. We put them in the school in Texas, and him and my daughter, who's just a year, she's a year younger than him. She's like 18 months younger than him, but she's a year younger than him in school. They both took the test to be advanced placement.
Yeah.
And my daughter got in, no problem. And my son, who is definitely smart enough to be in advanced placement, they sent me the form and said he missed the placement by 1 point in math. And I said, okay, no, we're not doing this, you know? And so I had to go up to the school and I explained to them, I don't know what happened. I don't know if he had a bad day when the test was taken, but we're taking it again and you're going to put him in this because I know he's smart enough to do it. And I just don't understand. It just feels like to me you're keeping him out. And they were like, no. And I said, well, okay, I know my child and I know that he's smart enough to do this. And so of course. And so they took the test again. And of course, this time, somehow miraculously, he, made the cut and he got put in. But that was my first indication that if I continue to have my boys in these schools, I'm going to have to continue to fight for them. I'm going to have to keep going up here all the time. And I don't want to do that. Like, I really do not want to spend my time just constantly just fighting with you about my son, And so that was one of the reasons why it was easy for me to pull the trigger on homeschooling, because I had already had these experiences where I knew that I was going to have to keep fighting for him. And then fighting for my youngest, because my youngest he never was really good at taking tests. And whenever he would take the test, like, he would know it, but it would time out. And so the teacher would say, I know he knows it, but he has to do it within this time. And he was 5. He can't do it within that time, And so it was just like, I'm like, okay, well, I don't agree with the fact that you're testing him to begin with. You're filling him with anxiety. I don't like this. And he doesn't want to come here, and so I had to take him out. That's one of the reasons I was like, we have to get the twins out. We have to get everyone out. Like, once I saw how my oldest was thriving and my daughter was thriving, I said, we're done with this, So yeah, I had that experience much more with my boys. So yeah, I totally understand why you singled out the Black boy, because my daughter is fine. Like, for some reason, she didn't have as many issues in school as the boys did. But
it's a conversation.
Yes, it is. It's a very long conversation. And there's a lot of statistics surrounding that. There's facts that's surrounding that. So I know my experience is not unique. That's
right. All right. So I'm okay. Go. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. So, like, a lot of the parents out there are probably wondering, well, if they're unschooling, what are you thinking about for their futures or their next steps after they become sort of they finish school age? are they developing drive through this self-directed learning process, or how are you feeling about their next steps after they finish homeschooling or unschooling?
Well, we talk about it as it comes up. Like I will point out things to my kids. Like I said, my daughter loves Sims, and there's a lot of organizing data with Sims. And so whenever she shows me all the work that she's done, I'm like, wow, you did a lot of work here. This is work. This is design work. Like I just try to explain to her how she could use these things in the real world. My son, my oldest son, he takes a lot of classes on Outschool. He does a lot of things that way. So he's planning on going to college, but he doesn't feel as though he has to do it right at 18. Like he feels like I could do it now, or I could do it at 20. Like he's just working towards what he wants to work towards. And then he thinks whenever I feel like I need to go to the next step, I'll go to the next step. There's no like timeline. There's no pressure. There's just, you see what adults do in the world. And you know that one day you're going to have to do that too. And you know that you need to start thinking about doing those things. But there's really no pressure on when it happens. It could happen all in 1 year. It could happen, so it's like, we talk about it as it comes up. Like, what do you think about this, Mom? Or what do you think about that? I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. That's how we do it. It's not so much like, okay, 18, this is the plan. Like, it's more like, what are you interested in? Delve into that. And then, we'll see what happens. Because at the end of the day, the jobs that these kids are going to do probably haven't been invented yet. Like, the job that my mom did, she was a word processor. They don't have word processors anymore. I'm a location planner. I went to college. I did not know that this job existed. The job that I've been doing for 15 years, I did not know that. So like, there's no point to me in trying to direct them or steer them into a career that may or may not exist in 10 years or 20 years. There's just no point in that. Right. So I just let them delve into their interests, and one day they know that they're going to have to start making money, and then they'll figure it out from there.
I love that you just step right off the school conveyor belt, trying to pipeline. I think that is so damaging, and as each child develops at different paces and has different interests and completely different trajectories, it can be very limiting. So kudos to you. That's amazing. And I'm sure your children all feel very, very listened to and supported in discovering their life's work.
Well, let me spin this a little. I know this is about Tiersa, but I want to share with you, so my son graduated high school this year. He was the valedictorian of his high school. He decided to go to public for his high school. Tons of praise heaped upon him. My younger two are self-directed, and they're now going, gosh, I need to go ahead and I need to graduate. And I'm like, whoa, you're on the 100-year degree plan. Okay. So yes, you'll probably graduate with a degree at something at some point, but we're not thinking about 18 as the target. Right. But I tell you that the pull, the tug for an 18-year-old to say I graduated, and to get the presents from relatives and to get the praise about graduating, that is really strong cultural message that I would encourage you to start preparing your kids. It sounds like you already are, but for the folks that may be listening, prepare your kids for the reality that learning is a lifetime sport.
Oh, absolutely. So, we never stop learning. We're lifelong learners.
Yep.
There's this, and we talk about that all the time. We used to talk about it a lot more when they first started unschooling, was the fact that whatever you learn, it's going to be forever. Like, you're not going to, it delves into other things. It branches off into other things. And one of the things specifically, like I said, my son, he studies Japanese. And we had a very long conversation about it, because I told him, I don't know every English word.
Right.
I don't know every English word. So, when you start this, you're never going to know all of Japanese. There's never going to be a point where you feel like, I've done it. I know, because you don't know all of English. So make a goal of, what do you want to do with this? Do you want to be able to talk to people when you go? Do you want to go to Japan? And do you want to be able to talk to people when you go there? Do you want to maybe be an English teacher in Japan? Or you know what I mean? Like, think about your goal with regards to this, and just know that it's going to be a lifelong journey, because you'll always be learning more words. You'll always be learning more things. And so thinking about it in those ways, like, you know, my daughter likes to bake, and I'm like, you'll never know all the recipes. You know, you'll get the core down, you know, how to make a cake or how to make a cookie or how, but you'll never know you'll always be learning more techniques. You'll always be learning more recipes. And we just always have those conversations. They're just ongoing with everything. Like, this is not the end. There's no, you know, cut and dry, but they do feel the pressure of having that universal experience, you know? So we found some Agile Learning Center, so that they have graduations, they have proms, they have, you know, things like that where unschoolers can go and have those type of experiences so they don't miss out on, if they want them. There are plenty of places where you can hook your unschoolers up that they can have those type of experiences. Because whenever I ask my kids, what do you think you're missing by being an unschooler? They always say things like lockers. Like, you know, like something that they saw on television, like movies. A prom, like a, you know, like a graduate. They never say, I'm missing out on a rich educational experience. You know, they always say, you know, I'm missing out on, you know, lockers, and
it's not the academics they're missing.
Yeah, no, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the social, you know, universal experience of school. That's right. That's what it has to do with. And so also I try to find the ways that they can have that experience without having to actually do all the rest of that stuff.
That's right. That's right.
Right, that's true. So tell us about these cool unschooler events and things that you've discovered in your unschooling journey that your kids have been participating in.
Well, at this point, this point, we can't do a lot of things because it's the pandemic.
Of COVID, of course.
Yeah, so but those things
are. So what are you
available.
Dreaming about?
Well, I'm dreaming about opening up a summer camp. I would really love to have a summer camp for unschoolers, especially unschoolers of color, as we get more and more BIPOC people start coming into the unschooling community. I would really like to open up a summer camp. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And I'm in the process of talks of doing that now, because that's what I would love to do. And it would have prom, and it would have graduation, and all the things, you know, that our kids would want to do without having to do all the tests and evaluation and stress and anxiety.
And can you tell us a little bit about the scene now? Now we've had COVID. You said that was a big surge in BIPOC families choosing unschooling or homeschooling. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I just read recently that homeschooling in the fall of 2020, between spring and fall, doubled. And it also doubled with Hispanic families, but with Black families, it quadrupled, up 300%. So it's just been an influx of people of color into the community. And I think it's because they were able to see for the first time what was going on in their kids' classroom. And so like they knew you kind of knew, but when it's out of sight, it's out of mind. And then if you talk to the kid and they're like, yeah, sure, it's whatever. And also these kids don't recognize the microaggressions like adults do. Like we have more experience. So we were seeing the teachers and we're like, oh no, I don't like that. I don't like this. And so a lot of Black people were like, you know what? And they also figured out this is something I can do. They thought it was one thing before, and now they realize it's something else completely different. And they're like, oh, actually, I could do this. You know, so the numbers might go back down, but I don't think they'll ever return to what they were before the pandemic. I think we're gaining homeschoolers, and we're going to just keep gaining homeschoolers as more Black people get into it, and we're able to talk to each other and talk about the ways in which we make this work.
Right. No, there's going to be a tipping point at some point. I'm not sure when that's going to be, but there's no doubt. All families, I've seen that. I work with all types of families, but there's no doubt that the experience of seeing their kids at home, having them at home, seeing that they could actually learn faster and have much more family time. I think there's also that dynamic too. Now I'm able to talk to my son or daughter. I'm able to hear what's going on in their heart. That's something that I think a lot of parents are like, I got to keep doing this, even if it is a little bit difficult.
Yeah. And also you're able to work with them.
Right.
And not against them. You're working with the school as a parent when your kids go to school. And now I'm working with my child and trying to work and do what they want to do, not just have them do what the school wants them to do.
Well, and I think that was the other theme that I heard repeatedly, which is parents, they realize how often the kids were doing things not to satisfy the kids' interests, but to satisfy the school's requirements. And they started seeing this disconnect, and making a choice about it. I've talked to a lot of parents who really sacrificed in order to switch it up.
Oh,
and, yeah. So I want to go back though to this black boy thing. I've been writing about this a lot lately. I've been thinking about it for 18 years. Well, more than that, for 49 and a half years.
Yes.
What would you say are the maybe the one or two key points that you would say to a parent of a black boy about why they should err on the side of caution, err on the side of child being around parent rather than child being around institutional system? How would you advise them to think about that?
Well, the first thing I would say, that's a really good question. But the first thing I would say was the tipping point for me was when I learned that Black boys who display the same characteristics as white boys with ADHD are diagnosed with oppositional defiance disorder. I mean, the same characteristics, but they are seen as being defiant, and the other one is seen as just not being able to pay attention. Yep. So I would say look into that first, and look into all the statistics and everything that's surrounding how schools treat our Black boys, because it is definitely unique to them. I mean, we have the statistics are there for Black girls as well. I mean, they're being disciplined more than their white counterparts as well. But I would definitely look at, for all the metrics, Black boys are doing the worst in schools. And why? Because you know your son and you know how bright he is. So, just think about that. Yep. And think about maybe he just needs something that they don't have there. They don't have the resources available that he needs, but you do, because you're his mother and you're his father. So just think about that. And don't ever think that, oh, I'm not a teacher, so I couldn't do it. Or no, you have everything you need. You have everything you need, and they need you more. Yeah. They need you more. You have something that you can teach them, something, and just lean into that. And also just lean into what they want to learn. You can learn it with them. Like, just because you don't know something, you just learn it with them. That's okay. And there's also a lot of people out here who want to help you. All you got to do is put it out there, get into a Facebook group, get into, I'm on the village, I'm in the village, get into these groups and just put something, like my kid's interested in, engineering. Phoenix was interested, my oldest son was interested in engineering. I just put that out there. There were so many people that emailed me, he's into engineering, have him call me or have him email me, or, I want to talk, because the community is so strong. And there's a lot of parents who know that they need networks. These kids need networks who didn't go to school. They need people who understand what they were doing. So there's a lot of people out there that want to help. So don't feel like you have to do it all on your own. You don't have to. There's plenty of people that want to help you, and there's plenty of resources that can help you.
That's good advice. Very good advice. By the way, Kath, did you have another question, or because
No, go for it.
I'm not sure if you can see back there. Let's see, back there, that whiteboard in the back. Can you see that? That's like one of the things I'm like, all right, parents, every parent needs to have a whiteboard.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That's
actually have a whiteboard.
Yeah,
a flip one. Yeah, no, that's good too.
Yeah,
but anything that you can write your ideas on immediately. My husband just bought another pack of Expo markers. Those things are like, an Expo marker in this house is like gold. Like, if you don't put the top on the Expo marker, there's going to be a problem.
There's going to be a battle.
Yeah, those things are expensive.
We were sticky note families for about 8 years, and now we've moved online. We've gone, actually, Kath showed me Miro, which is an online whiteboard.
Oh, I need to start using that. That sounds awesome.
Fun.
You absolutely need to start using it. It is terrific. It is terrific. Okay, so Kath, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, Matt, I want to find out a little bit more. You said you belong to the village. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I'm in the village. It is, hold on. It's a village of Black moms, and actually there's all BIPOC people are in it as well. And it's just an online community that we share all of our struggles that we have with unschooling and self-directed education. And it's more has to do with just how do we as moms deal with this role that we have now that is, we're creating a new role. Like, this isn't what we've ever seen before. And what do we look like? What does the role of mother or father or parent look like in this space? So we talk about that a lot, like how, because, you know, we're in no man's land. We don't know what we don't know. One of the fathers in the group said that it's like you're a domesticated cat raising a lion. And that's how it feels sometimes. You know, like, these kids are free and we're not free. You know what I mean? We've been domesticated. So it's hard to try to tell them. They're showing me how to be free. They're giving me, you know what I mean? Like, oh, that's what freedom looks like. Okay, I didn't know, you know? So those are the things that we talk about a lot. But yeah, I can give you the link to it so that you can put it in the show notes. But it's been a lifesaver for me. And we have Zoom meetings and we talk, and a lot of people that you might know come, like Akilah Richards, she hosted too, and she has her podcast message group is in the village. So we talk about the podcast there. So yeah, but my main point was just that there's plenty of people online, and it's growing every single day. There's lots and lots of Facebook groups. There's lots of Facebook groups that are surrounding the social aspects of homeschooling and unschooling and getting our kids together.
Yep.
So there's just a lot of resources available to everyone.
Okay,
Awesome.
Along that line of the changing role of parents, tell me about how you and your husband operate. Because again, I'm a dad. I was the principal homeschooler. I was the one that kind of said, I want us to do this, and kind of drug my wife along. What's the relationship like? How does he play a role? Is he out in the garage and you're handling the business, or what's going on there?
Oh no, like he was right. He was on board from the start, which was, I was very grateful for. But he felt kind of like you, Matt, in the way that, you know, he knows what these schools do to Black boys. And since he has so many of them, he was he was like, okay, well, how do we do it? Like, immediately he was interested. He didn't shut it down at all. And he took the ride with me. I was the one Phoenix was the one who suggested it, but then I was the one who told him, like, what do you think about doing this? And it was more on him than it was on me, because he was the one who worked at night. So in the beginning, he had to take the twins were still in school. He had to take the twins to school and then come back and do homeschool with the kids, because we weren't unschooling then, we were homeschooling. Right. And so what we would do was I would make the curriculum on the weekend for the week. I would just take like a Sunday afternoon and just do all the curriculum that I wanted them to do for the week. And then I would show it to him on Sunday night, and then he would execute it throughout the week. And then when I came home, if he couldn't do it, then we would just have night school. Or, you know, and then we say, okay, just wait till mom gets home and then she'll walk through it with you. Yeah. So that's how it first started. We worked really well in tandem, but now as the kids get older, we pretty much have gotten into this rhythm where we just see opportunities where we can help them. And we always just lean into it like, oh, I see you're doing that. Do you need help with that? You know, or did you know this? Or are you interested in learning more about that? And if they say yes, then we just tell them what we know. And, you know, or like, oh, that looks like something that might be interesting to look up. You feel like looking that up? And they'll say, yeah, and okay. Or they'll say no, and we'll say, okay, maybe later. You know, there's just no pressure. But I see him helping the kids out all the time with just basic things like learning how to cut a pineapple. Like one day he was cutting a pineapple, and our oldest twin, Malachi, he said, I want to learn how to cut a pineapple. It's really not that simple. Like cutting a pineapple, you would think it's just like something, but I have this 9-year-old with this really sharp knife, and and that just goes back to the fear that I was talking about before. And I keep reminding myself, he doesn't want to cut himself. He doesn't want to cut himself. Like I just keep saying that to myself over and over. You know what I mean? Like he's not going to, I don't need to say, don't cut yourself. He doesn't want to cut himself. So yeah, so like things like that are just like, I just notice everything because everything is learning. So I notice every single thing. And I notice the confidence that Malachi got after he learned how to cut a pineapple.
Sure.
That's something that just seems like just so everyday, you know, and he watched videos on how do I do the rings? How do I do the chunks? You know, he delved into that so much. It was just such a great experience between him and his dad.
Yeah. I'm getting a lot of, I'm in a thunderstorm here in Houston. So if I cut out, Kath, just handle it and close us down. We've got 10 minutes to go. Had another quick question, if I could, Kath. Okay, good deal. Okay, freedom and responsibility. This is another conversation I've had with a lot of parents. Now, if I give my child freedom, and again, my kids are all 15, 17, 18. If I give them freedom, they will say, well, then give me the keys to the car because you're giving me freedom. Now, I also say you have to have responsibility. How do you balance these two opposing forces in your home?
That's an excellent question, because we always talk about that there is no freedom without responsibility. You can't, they go hand in hand. If you have freedom, then that means that you also have responsibility. So one of the ways that we've started doing it, because my oldest is 15, okay, is that we like I said, they have the freedom to go outside, but we have those conversations about what to do, you know, if something happens. But we also started we got the older kids debit cards, bank accounts, so that they could start to manage money and be responsible for their own money, you know, and set goals and make those type of decisions on their own and come to mom and dad as, you know, as consultants, you know. And my daughter, we just set up an allowance, got them debit cards, and then we just said, okay, there you go. And if you don't have any money, you don't have any money. We talked about what mom and dad were going to be responsible for and what they would be responsible for. We said, you be responsible for anything that doesn't have anything to do with education. I'll be responsible for any of your educational things that you need. I'll be responsible for your food, of course, your clothes, your haircuts. But if you want Funko Pops, that's on you, you know, like those type of things. So, so they start setting goals. You start to see them, you know, okay, well, I want to buy this. I know mom's not responsible for this. I'm responsible for this. So I need to save my money up to get it. Or my daughter will say, I'm not going to let my account go below $50. I'm going to make a goal and not let my account go below $50. So they start to take those responsibility on their own. Because like I said, they see adults and they see the adult world and they see how we live. And they understand the stakes. They understand what they're going to have to learn to do in order to live in the world. So all I have to do is give them I got to give them the tools. And then they learn how to get the boundaries and the responsibility. They learn themselves. And then they also, you know, they ask me for help. And I'm like, well, yeah, you went below $50. So what are you going to do to make sure that this doesn't happen again? You know, it's just having those conversations and that open dialogue really helps it a lot.
Well, and just briefly, what I'm hearing is you are giving freedom, but within a boundary. And so when most parents think of unschooling, they think of just unlimited freedom, no boundaries. And you and I both know, I think, Kath, we all know that creates a potential monster. You know,
but that's not how it works. That's not how life works.
Right.
You know, my kids don't want that much responsibility. They're not ready for that much responsibility. They don't want it. There are some things that they want mom and dad to decide for them. And that's fine. But I think that there's this misconception because we don't really know how kids act. We don't know how children behave. We know how schooled children behave.
Yes.
And if you give someone that much control, if you put that much control in that course of environment of school, when you take them out of it, they're going to go crazy for a while because they've been locked down. But if someone always had the freedom to do it, they would understand. It's kind of like climbing a tree. You know, if you ever watch a kid climb a tree, they regulate their own fear. They know when they're getting too high. You know, they say, oh, I don't really want to go to that branch. Or they survey and they look like, does that look like a steady branch for me? Because they don't want to fall.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like these kids, they don't want to fail. Why would they want to do that? They want to succeed. They want you to trust them. They want these things. So we have to go into it with a mindset of trust, the mindset of these children know what's best for them because they know what they're going to have to do when they get to be grown-ups and they don't want to fail at it. So they're doing the best that they can.
Kath, last question, and then we'll go to our signature questions before we close out.
Yeah, no, I I absolutely love that. And I just want to say that in the course of your unschooling life, have you seen your children become more self-directed?
Oh, I feel like they were always self-directed. I took that away from them when I sent them to school. Okay. Yeah, they become more responsible. They become more aware of what they're doing, what that might lead to in the future. But yeah, I don't know if they're more self-directed than they were before. They're just more aware that this life is their own and they're responsible for their own life now. It's not mom and dad, it's not a teacher, it's not, the college board, it's them. They're directing their own life. So they've taken more responsibility for themselves.
You just said a curse word. You said a curse word. You said the college board. That's a curse word in our house. Hey, we have a couple questions that we ask all of our guests. And so, Kath, maybe I'll ask you to ask the first question.
The first question, yes. So I always ask people, like, in your unschooling journey, is there anything in the community that you wish existed that would have really supported you, as you are homeschooling or unschooling?
Well, yeah, when I first started unschooling, there was a lot less people of color in the community. I really had to seek that out. I really had to search for it. And now that's not the case anymore. There's a lot more, like if you go on Google and you search for people of color who unschool, a lot of people will come up, I'll come up. So, that was one of the things that I needed when I first started, that I created, and now I see a lot more of it because I'm in it now. So yeah, it's just community. I think that this lifestyle really enforces, like, it shines a light on the fact that you need more people, that this parenting gig wasn't meant to do with just two people. Like, you need more. I don't know everything, and I need other people to help my children in this journey. We can't do it alone. So, you need that you gotta have the village. You gotta have it. You have to have like-minded people, or even people that aren't necessarily all the way there with you, but they support you. So that's very necessary.
Yeah. Okay, in the 2.5 minutes we have left, here's my question for you. First off, thanks so much for being on the show. This has been terrific. I always learn, and I'm more motivated. And again, I wish I could go back in time and fix some of the things I screwed up.
Oh, we all do. We all do.
But here's my question. So parents listening may have their kids in school, and they may not be ready to make the jump yet. So what is one thing that you could change school? What's one thing that you would change to make school work better for kids and families? What would that be?
One thing?
Yeah, we only have a minute and a half. Okay. We don't have 4 hours.
Okay. The first thing that comes to mind is I would take off the grades. And I don't just mean the letter grades. I would take the boundaries off of age mixing. I would have all the kids be together. Because I see, like I've mentioned before, my son plays chess, and he always jokes that when he goes to chess, it's 9-year-olds and 90-year-olds. There's just a bunch of old men there at the library playing chess, and little boys there playing chess. Yeah. And he learned so much from both of those people. So I would take the age segregation off of school and just have everybody mixing in. So and also the stigma. I think when you take off the age restrictions, the stigma of this is below your level, or this is, it goes away. Because you it's okay. You just didn't know it. It's fine. You can learn it at any time. It's okay if you're 12 and you still need to know 3rd grade math. It's okay. Okay, fine. It's not a big deal. But when everybody is segregated like that, then it becomes a big deal. And people go above and below, and I would take away the age restrictions, the age segregation. I would take that away.
Right. All right. Well, Tiersa McQueen, thank you so very much for being on When School's Not Working. This has been a fantastic conversation. I would like to talk to you more about the Black boy thing.
Anytime, yes, I can definitely help you.
Yeah. So as we conclude, for Kath Fraise, for Michael, what's Michael's last name? Strong. Oh my gosh, Michael Strong. And I'm Matt Barnes, signing off from When School's Not Working. Please join us next week, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll hopefully see you then. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been so great. Thank you.
Great.